Welcome to making the Sawtooth square quilt block. For some tools recommended, we'll need the Quilt Kit. I also recommend Riley Blake's pins. It's not required, but recommended, and some scissors. You'll also need a sewing machine, unless you're super ambitious and ready to hand piece. Step 1, we are going to grab our half square triangle and our quarter square triangle. We're going to be sewing those together to make a flying geese. You'll see the notches are already cut out and ready to go. You're only going to grab the first 2 pieces, but continue to grab all the rest as we go along. You'll see here that the quarter square triangle is our background cream colored. It's a little hard to see on the camera, but you're looking for the right side and the wrong side of the fabric because we're going to be sewing these right sides together. You can see the grain lines through the front of the pattern here, that there's some lines and some stripes on the cream, so that's the side we want to have the front. Then you're going to line up the notches together. I prefer to pin here just so that way it's holding itself securely and firm. However, like I mentioned earlier, if you're feeling more confident, you certainly do not have to pin. You can skip this step. I like to lead with a piece of fabric that just has some threads already sewn into it, so that way the fabric does not get bird nested and we can sew it down nice and securely. I do sew with a 1/4 inch seam guide, which is just a piece of tape here. You're welcome to use this idea, and I do have a 1/4 foot on my machine. We're going to start sewing one corner all the way down to the other side. Go nice and slowly at your own pace, and be sure if you did pin, you are removing those pins so that way you do not risk your needle coming down onto one of those pins and then you're breaking your needle. We're going to lift the foot up, cut the thread on each side. And then I like to put that piece of fabric back under just in case I forget to do it the next time. So you can see here, I have white thread, so it's a little hard to tell, but it is 1/4 inch all the way along. Alrighty, let's switch to this darker thread for you. Again, just taking my measuring device, and it is a 1/4 inch all the way. We're going to press that open, pressing to the darker side of the fabric, and you can see here's what it looks like in the back. Just fold it over like that. We're going to repeat on the other side, sewing from either the top to the bottom or the bottom to the top, whichever is your preference. I'm just going to sew from this top part because I want that point really accurate and secure. Okay, and this is what it looks like when you've pressed that to the darker fabric as well, front and the back. We're going to make 4 of these repeated. Okay, next we are going to move on to step 2. We're going to grab the blocks on either end, and we are going to sew those to one of the flying geese blocks that you made in step 1. And again, we're sewing right sides together, and you're going to sew 1 on each end. Okay, and here is what it looks like from the back with both of those blocks attached. And you're going to press this to the lighter fabric or towards that square. And here's an example with some different fabric of how I press that open. You can see I'm kind of squashing versus swishing with the iron. Okay, here is our finished side piece, and you are going to repeat that and have a second one made. And these will go on either side of the star block. With our other two flying geese, we're going to attach that to the middle section in step 3. When you're going through, this is just a reminder to take your time when you have seams that you're going to be running over. Make sure you're guiding them in slowly and making sure that they are flat before you go all the way through. Okay, and we have our middle portion all sewn together. That's what it looks on the back. We're going to press it toward the square on the inside. So to do this very easily, you can start to hand press it, or you can grab it from the outside block and guide that seam towards the inside. Okay, this is the back and this is the front. And again, in the same fabric color that we had been working with. Step 4, we are going to sew the two side pieces together to the centerpiece. And this is the final step in making the block. Now, because we pressed our seams in opposite directions, they're going to do what's called nesting. You want to make sure that they're lined up perfectly so you get the best look with your seams aligned. And I do recommend using a pin here to hold it in place. I do put some pins down on the ends, just so those fabrics aren't shifting as well. There's no seam in the middle, but you just want to line it up and stick a pin in it. Okay. We'll get our thread leader and we're ready to go. I do recommend forward and backward stitching, just a few stitches at the beginning and at the ends, since these are the final blocks that are going to be pieced together later on. That way they don't fall apart. Here's what it looks like if you open it up, just a little sneak peek. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay, we're back over at the pressing station. And here I recommend to press these seams open. That is going to give the block the flattest seams possible. So when you go to quilt your quilt and top stitch over it later on, you won't have as many bulky seams to run over. You can see I'm taking my fingers and I'm doing what's called finger pressing just to help guide the seam open before I go in with the iron. And you can see a couple of the other seams, they decide to get wonky too, but just take your time with it and get it nice and flat. And here's the final Sawtooth star block. It is so cute and so versatile. You can use this in the quilt kit as is, or you can even get creative with it. You can see here in the back, everything's nice and flat. Step 5 is attaching 2 blocks together. The seams are open, so when you have a pin, just stick it directly in those 2 seams to help guide them and line them up. Some other really good projects that these blocks would make great for would be a table runner or even a quilted pillow. You can see I'm having a little trouble with this one, but just take your time and work it through. Alright, here it is. Should be sewn a 1/4 inch seam down. Oops! Okay, so what happened here was the feed dogs unevenly fed the fabric through and it got a little bunched up. I don't know if you can see that here. And so it's not actually eating much of that fabric at all. So let's go ahead and rip it out. Grabbing our seam ripper, we're just gonna kind of carefully take that apart. This actually took much longer, so I just stopped the camera and started it again. I'm gonna open it back up, and then I'm actually gonna feed it through with that side up so we can keep a better eye on it. And we're just gonna reinforce that area where we took all of the stitches out. Going a little bit before and a little bit beyond where the stitches were removed will ensure that this does not fall back apart. And you can see much flatter seam, just double checking the back side, making sure that nothing happened there as well. Okay, and here are our 2 blocks sewn together. You can see those points look absolutely beautiful, perfect right next to each other, giving a little hug. And again, where those two blocks are together, we're going to open that seam and press it flat as well. You'll repeat this for each of the rows and columns making up the quilt. And there you have it. Sawtooth square blocks, perfect and ready for quilting. Don't forget to like and subscribe and stay tuned for more projects.